Good afternoon and welcome to the FX Daily Wrap-Up. And we're seeing the dollar going and pair back in just a bit here, coming into some support here. We're actually looking on a 15-minute for very short-term trading scalping. I'll use the 15-minute. Let's go on and move this to the 2-hour chart. See here, we got some support coming in right around that 96.62 area. Now, we did get some headlines coming out about a Russian nuclear submarine accident. Says from what I was seeing here that I think it was mentioned 16 had died, and it was a Russian nuclear sub by the Arctic. Let's see, and it says it's a deep sea naval. Someone's putting in here. Simon's putting in here, it's a deep sea naval apparatus, not even a sub. So we'll see. Maybe a lot of mixed messages coming in here. Also, we're seeing the dollar CAD going and pair back in here. We'll see what kind of reaction. Now, I do want to go on. Let's go on and go into another screen here. Prior to that, gold was already rallying here. You can see here with gold now. I told y'all ever since last week I've been looking for 1390 in the XAU, the spot. Hang on one moment. Although I've been trading the futures, but I use that one as my gauge here. And I already took 1/3 off as we made this climb up in here. There's some resistance. This is a level I was looking for. You remember 2 weeks ago I was looking for 1438. We topped out at 1439.20. I was looking for a move down here to 1390. Mark was holding up really well last week, and then we took this dive. But we finally saw a little bit of a bounce here, so I took 1/3 off here. I think we can still make a move further here on the gold. Once again, with the gold, to me, it's all about the potential for rate cuts that I'm actually focusing on my own self. The guppy continues to go on and pull back down. You can see this here. Boy, holy smokes. I mean, it just keeps falling and falling. We're in a very key area. I mean, you have to wonder, is like, at what point is this thing going to go on and finally stop? Hang on. Let me just go and pull up here on the daily chart. I know Amanda's been trading this thing. I haven't done anything in the guppy for a while. I mean, I started trading the cross rates when the majors were so quiet. But you can see how important this 3602 is. If we lose that, then remember we had talked about that in the analysis coming into the week. A break below 3602, and we're just about, we're actually below it, has an initial target of 3460, which is a 78%. We know that Sterling loves to trade against a 78%, whether it's to the upside or the downside. I always joke about, now in regards to cable loves the 78%, Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel, you know, from the old Wall Street movie, but it always likes to go to the 78%, whether it's on the upside or to the downside. Certainly looks in some kind of a trouble, but this is a very key area here, this 3602. We're going to move on right now, though, to the back into the main screen. And you can see here, finally, we're getting the euro pushing up. Now, you can see on the 15-minute, we had this nice little hammer right here, and we're trying to work a little bit higher. If you follow us on, or if you're with us on ForexAnalytix, and you may want to go and consider get a membership. It's only $1 to try it out for 10 days. Not only do you have access to all the webinars and the chat room and the excellent analysis with the different trading type strategies, whether it's technical, harmonics or Elliott wave, you have those options, and quite a few, like I said, experienced folks here in the room that in just our chat room, that everyone's very supportive in here, and so we get a lot of shared information, shared knowledge, kind of like what Dale likes to say, his information gathering. But one of the things we talked about this morning was bumping up against this trend line here. We talked about this in this move to the cash dollar index, is that we didn't, I was looking for the dollar to strengthen towards the end of next week, going into the G20. Well, it didn't really do that. And then we came out of the G20, we started to strengthen, but we didn't go gangbusters until the boons started falling. And we mentioned about it's pretty tough for the euro to rally if the boons are sliding, obviously rates going lower. So that's when we actually got this dollar to really kick up. But we're into a key area here. We talked about, if we look here on the 2-hour chart, we actually had this as our bias chart resistance. Even though it already moved above it, we said, hey, it's still a significant area here, which is the 96.81 here. We had that listed for our bias chart resistance. I thought it was going to have a tough time trying to scale. It could maybe move a little bit higher, but this is a key area here on the 2-hour chart. And one of the things that we talked about with the bias chart, which we cover every day on the European crossover, which is at 4 a.m. Eastern. Now it is recorded, and Stelios makes it available in the chat room about an hour and a half before the New York Open. And what we do is we go on and focus in on these short-term scalp levels. Now, one of the things that we were talking about in regards to the dollar index, we mentioned that this morning because we'd already gone above 96.81. We were actually just a hair below it, I think, or at it when we're doing the European crossover webinar. And I was saying, well, look, lots of times, we'll, sometimes get lucky and catch, top ticket. We talked about it with the yen as we came in. The analysis was done over the weekend, and we came in and the high was 54 and we had 58. We talked about some other moves here with some of the other pairs. Same thing with the cable this morning. I think we were right there. We finally made it down here for our support. But the way you want to use this, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes we get close where just about top ticks or bottom ticks, not all the time. But really what it means is in this area, i.e. 96.81, you're going to see a lot of activity. And so we talked about that. This morning when we were doing the show, we were right there at 96.81. We might have even been a little bit above it. But that's what I'm expecting for the market. As I said, in that situation, if the market's going higher, we'll be looking for traders to say, you know what, I'll go and lay off some of my longs. I may not lay off all my longs, but I'll lay off some of them. Or you might have some traders that are aggressive saying, you know what, I'm going to get short against this area. Doesn't mean we can't push a little bit above it, which we certainly did. Now, yesterday our bias chart was lower, but once again, we had that catalyst with the boons, which the drop in the boons really is what pushed the dollar. It had nothing to do with G20. We saw the talk about, oh, well, the dollar's higher because of the trade thing. Oh, the dollar's actually higher because now the Fed's not going to do 50 basis points. Nobody thought, look, they were looking to do potentially 50 basis points, but the whole idea of the 50 basis points went away about around the early part of the middle of next week. So this had nothing to do with now all of a sudden the Fed decided not to do 50 basis points, which is a bunch of BS. It had to do with the boons sliding. And when the boons slided to new record lows, that's what dropped the euro. And once again, the euro comprises 56.4% of the cash dollar index and really got the dollar index scooting. If the dollar was really rallying off of the G20, we'd already been up here when we came in on the Sunday session or early in the European session. This all transpired as the boons started going to move lower. So we've come down into this area. We've seen the euro kind of pop up a little bit higher here. Upper high was 13.11, so we're backing up just a little bit. But the key resistance is actually going to be for the euro, and we'll get to that, is actually 13.26, which was yesterday's support, was our bias chart support yesterday. And if you were with us in the European session, that's where we went to. We actually overshot it by, at the time, we overshot it by about, I think it was 6 pips or 7 pips. I think the low at the time was 13.19. And I came on the air, I picked it up because we were at the time, was at 13.26. We saw the market rally up to 13, I think it was 13.60. And then obviously we saw the markets pare back, and I thought we were going to kind of hold in that area, and then we slid down even further as the boons really applied that pressure. One of the things we talked about this morning was, well, now that was support, now that becomes resistance. But the key level here is 1262. That's our bias chart support here. Definitely don't want to see this market, if you're long, close below 1262. That would not be good at all. We are starting to see the euro kind of push up a little bit. Cable continues to remain weaker. Wow, look at this. We even pushed below 26. There's just no relief for this thing whatsoever. And even went below what we had for our bias chart support here. So we pushed it. There's some additional level here at 25.80-ish, but wow, this pressure continues. Same thing here with the dollar CAD. We're weakening. We did get that brush. I was long the dollar CAD from last week, and I stepped in, added again, jumped out of that one, and for some reason, well, I know for a reason why, was because we were so oversold, I hung on, and boy, this thing really went under trouble. Well, as we rallied out, I did spin out, and the reason was because it had been the weaker sister all along while the dollar index was rallying. Finally, it popped up, which probably could have held on a little bit longer. I didn't. But we've since come back all the way back down to 3101. We actually had our bias chart resistance since yesterday and into today at here. Actually, yesterday was 31.36. We did move it up today to 31.63 to allow for some room. Yesterday, we topped out around the mid 40s. But we did give it the opportunity to move a little bit higher today, 31.63. The market hasn't been able to do anything. That 36 area obviously is held. We can take a look at it here. And you can see there's that 31.36. That was actually a level on the way down, and we overshot that. And at the time, I had 31.26 as our bias chart. We had it before, and then we moved it lower to 31.26. And that's actually when I went long at 31.27. And it fell even further, add on 31.15. Market eventually got a nice bounce up. I jumped out of that one, but unfortunately I hung on to the other one, the original position, too long. We saw quite the fall, and I was really disappointed. We were looking for this market. We actually, on our bias chart analysis for the week, we had resistance is 31.36, so we're already looking for that. And like I said, this analysis is available for you as a member with ForexAnalytix. Blake generally does most of all the basic technical. Then, of course, Steve and the gang handling, and Gregor with the Elliott wave, as well as harmonic patterns. And of course, like I said, an excellent chat room for a lot of shared information. As once again, as Dale likes to say, information gathering. But I still think that we're going to go and move higher on the gold. I took off 1/3. I've been looking for that 1390. I really didn't participate on the gold on the way up, so I definitely wanted to, other than a few scalps on the way down, I wanted to make sure I grabbed something when we got down to that 1390. I'd been barking about that all the previous week. Dollar yen, now we're starting to see this thing slide back. Could be that Russian incident. As a safe haven asset seems a run into the dollar yen, probably putting a little bit of pressure here on the dollar itself. Other than that, not a whole lot. We expect to be relatively quiet 4th of July holiday. And once again, just to reiterate, if you watch on the recording, the new time slot for the daily FX wrap-up is 12:30 Eastern. Most of European traders are already cutting out. And usually I do the European crossover, so in some ways it makes a lot of sense for the daily wrap-up to cater for that. Although it is recorded, but this gives us an opportunity for those in the U.S. session. It's starting to push a little bit later in the afternoon. And for those of us, as I mentioned, that trade primarily European and U.S. hours, complements that very well with being the wrap-up for us. So thank you very much for joining us. We shall see you tomorrow. And if we don't, have a good 4th of July.